All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our March caucus meeting. It's good to see all of you, and I just want to let the public know that we did have an executive session to discuss personnel and legal matters prior to this meeting. At the conclusion of our caucus meeting this evening, we will again go into executive session to continue our discussion on personnel and legal matters. Hopefully everybody's enjoying the nice weather out there as we walked in here. If you did have a chance as you were pulling in the parking lot, this is always an exciting time of the year, not only because it's spring, but you know it's spring when you see the athletes out on the fields practicing in their shorts and t-shirts. So that is something that's really exciting. Mr. Defoe did submit a report to you, so you'll get all the updates on our spring sports and our exciting opportunities for our student athletes. Just a reminder that your financial interest forms are due. I believe Jenna did put those in your binder. So if you did not submit your form, please do so as soon as possible. If you do need another form, please just let Justin know and he'll make sure you get one.
Dr. Turner, do you only need to complete those after you've been elected to the board, not before you're running for the board? Do you know?
I believe you have to while you're running too.
Right.
Yeah.
And then if they need that, they still submit it to the school district? Is that accurate?
Mhm. Yep.
And then to you?
Yep. But yeah, it would come to me and then I would make sure that Justin has it as well. Yep.
Thank
you bet. The next topic on here is our next Buildings and Grounds meeting is scheduled for March 25th. As of right now, we do not have anything for the agenda. So just checking to see if there was any need to hold a meeting this month. Nope. Okay, sounds good. And my last update or announcement there is if you open up your binder, I believe Jenna put it on your left-hand side. It is that time of year where you need to cast your LIU ballot. Asking that you do cast your ballot and leave it in your binder, and Jenna will collect that then from you tomorrow when she does come in. And I am asking that you do complete the ballot this evening before you leave. Any questions about that? All right, moving right along. Just want to go and start talking to you about some personnel items here. We do have some resignations and transfers that I would like to share with you this evening that we'll also be voting on tomorrow. I do want to share that Jackie Norpeld did submit her retirement at the high school for special education. So that is a position that you will be approving for retirement, and then you will see that we will post that to fill for the 25-26 school year. Also, I'd like to share that we do have a transfer. Katie Nelson is currently a third grade teacher at our elementary school, and she did apply and interviewed for our 8th grade special education position that is open here at the middle school. She did become the successful candidate and was offered the position. So Katie will be transferring from 3rd grade to 8th grade, but meeting with the leadership team, we wanted to make sure that we did not disrupt the educational environment for our students. So Katie has agreed and actually wanted to stay in 3rd grade for the remainder of the year, as we do have a long-term substitute in grade 8 for special ed and is doing an excellent job. That would create less disruption for our students. So starting the 25-26 school year, Katie would start in 8th grade special education, and then we would be backfilling her position in 3rd grade. The next, I'd just like to share that we do have some employees for summer camp contracts that we would be recommending. We have Andrea Dow, that would be our kindergarten camp director. We have Alexa Groft, which would be our cursive camp director. We have Laura Hughes, which would be our literacy camp director. And then we have David Morning, which would be our STEAM camp director. These are positions that are annually filled for the summer, and those would be coming to you for approval tomorrow. Also, I'll be recommending the approval for Timothy Walk for auditorium manager and secondary instrumental music director. And also recommending Greg Klein as the new girls tennis coach for varsity, would be the head tennis coach for the 25-26 school year. And also the approval of Heather Denglinger as the volunteer track coach for the remainder of this year for 24-25. Any questions? Great. And then moving on to any additional agenda items that we will be discussing. We'll be talking about the bus and van driver approval. There will be a new bus van driver that we would seek for approval, and also the disposal of obsolete equipment at the high school, which I'm happy to say is just a VCR. I did appreciate when I read that, the four-head VCR, that really took me back. Be kind, rewind, right? Some people work at Blockbuster on the board. I won't tell you who that is, Jen. Anyway, we also will be talking as we go down further, some board policy review, but before we get to that, I am going to transition into the chapter 339 that Dr. Myers would like to give you an update on what that is, and then we'll circle back for any financial updates.
We'll do that during discussion. It's on the agenda.
Oh,
for
I'm
discussion.
so sorry. I was totally out of place. Thank you for that. Justin, is there any updates on finances?
So,
Thank you.
starting with the general fund, we had a beginning balance of $12,342,986.38. We had revenue for the month of $2,323,013.70. We had a transfer to the cafeteria fund of $23,000. We had payroll expenditures of $1,152,234.66. And other expenditures of $1,197,402.57, leaving an ending balance of $12,293,362.85. Looking at the revenue for this time of year, it's very standard. If you have any specific questions on any revenue, please let me know. And then moving on to the expenditures, very standard for this time of year. Our higher dollar amounts are our driver charter, our utilities, and our contracted services. If you have any specific questions on any of the expenditures, please let me know. Okay. Moving on to the cafeteria fund. We had a beginning balance of negative $88,148.85. Revenue for the month of $103,362.21. Transfer from the general fund is $23,000. Payroll expenditures of $52,345.36. And other expenditures of $64,059.57. Leaving a negative balance of $78,191.97. Factoring in the federal and state reimbursement for February, we're at $744.28. Looking at the revenue for this time of year, again, very standard. If you have any specific questions, please let me know. And then on to the expenditures. Very normal expenditures for this time of year. If you have any specific questions on the expenditures, please let me know. Okay, moving on to the capital reserve fund. At a beginning balance of $1,024,607.12. We had interest revenue of $443.58, leaving an ending balance of $1,025,050.70. And last but not least, the scholarship fund. We had a beginning balance of $54,030.72. Interest revenue of $4.14, leaving an ending balance of $54,034.86.
Any questions for Justin? All right. Thank you so much, Justin. Appreciate that. All right. Moving into discussion items. So our consent agenda, it looks like it's gonna be pretty small as far as the consent agenda. I do have down there that letter C, the bus and van driver approval would be on the consent agenda, along with letter D, the disposal of obsolete equipment. Is there any other items that you would want to see on the consent agenda?
So typically, personnel A1, A.
So the retirement.
And 2A are clerk.
Mhm. Got it.
And then
6.
6 would be the total vote.
I think we're good.
Can I jump back real quick? Is Marco Technologies, is that like our printers and copiers? Correct. For a lot of. Thank you.
All right. Good. All right. Okay, moving on now. We are ready for Dr. Myers. I apologize.
That's okay.
If you could talk to us about chapter 339, and what I will say before she gets into it, I think Justin and I have heard a lot about 339. This is a labor of love that Dr. Myers has been engaged in for quite some time. So we are just as excited as you are to hear about 339.
I'm sure you are. So it is exciting. Chapter 339 is a requirement for all Pennsylvania schools that send students to a career and tech program or house career and tech programs, and we have both. And so as a result, one of the requirements is that we outline what we call a school counseling plan that identifies not just our school counselor roles and responsibilities, but various stakeholders' roles and responsibilities in regard to supporting our students in their post-secondary school plans. So that doesn't just mean college, it any kind of career or from kindergarten through 12th grade, how are we helping students identify and prepare for whatever those post-secondary plans are? I'm not going to go through all 30 pages of the document, but what I can say is that the document it was an existing plan, and really what the stakeholder group took on in this school year was kind of updating, making tweaks and changes, providing input on some of the different stakeholder roles and responsibilities. We also updated and identified very specific school goals that are aligned to that goal of providing students with a solid plan as far as their post-secondary school plans. So what you'll see is there are 10 different sections that are requirements of the state in which we've outlined and identified very specific information aligned to that Chapter 339 requirement. Section 1, simply outlining, make this a little larger, just simply outlining our current school counseling counseling team, who they are, what buildings they're assigned to, and what their counselor student ratios look like currently. Page 2, this is driven by our counseling department. And so they've taken a great deal of time as a counseling team to identify their mission statement, the core beliefs and the philosophy of the department as a whole in supporting our students and their post-secondary plans. So please keep in mind that our counselors wear a number of hats, and this is just one of those hats, and is very focused on just post-secondary and career planning. Section 3 outlines our advisory council. We are required to have administrators, a school board member, all of our counseling department, parents, students, business owners, community members, and they're all listed here and will remain stakeholders for this 3-year cycle of the plan. This plan goes from 2025 to the end of the 2028 school year. The next section, our group spent a great deal of time just kind of massaging the language in the stakeholder roles and responsibility. So again, these were already outlined. The group did a great job in each of their roles, really kind of having some great discussions about what they felt like their roles and responsibilities should be in regards to preparing our students for those post-secondary plans. And we were able to tweak some of the language, something as simple as, I know it sounds small, but some of these statements, they started very differently, and just rewording the role and responsibility statement with the stakeholder and will. So educators will support and advocate. Local businesses and community will develop partnerships. Just trying to keep it consistent and make sure that all stakeholders are engaged in the process and see themselves as a part of the process and not just a list, just a statement there kind of sharing who they are, but what will they do to actually support that post-secondary plan? This next section outlines the role and responsibility of our school counselors, but again, very specific to that post-secondary planning. Their roles are huge, and this is just one very small part of it. Then one of the requirements by the state is that there is what they call a program calendar. And so this calendar outlines by building and month what different tasks our counselors take on throughout the entire school year. So you're going to see in June and July a lot of parent meetings and scheduling and kind of preparing for the school year. August is that new student orientation, helping students transition from building to building, calling parents, assisting with scheduling, new student file reviews. So a number of just kind of beginning of the year activities. I'm not going to go through all of it. There's a lot here. And let's see here. So as we get into November, December, our counselors wear a number of different or sit on a number of different committees. So you'll see that many of them are part of their school improvement committee meetings. They're supporting the community with toy drives or our oh my gosh, Giving 3 program that we have at the elementary building, SAP meetings, our student assistance program where we have student concerns or things supports that need to be put in place. So they sit at a lot of at the table of a lot of different committee meetings that support our students holistically. So as we go through the calendar year, again, a lot of these things are the same. While we do some of these different roles, they're doing in September, they're doing in October, November, and December. So they're just kind of ongoing responsibilities that support students in all aspects of their social and emotional and academic learning. So then as we get into program delivery, the state requires that there is a school counseling. I'm going to say the word curriculum, but it's not necessarily an outline step-by-step curriculum in the same way that you would see it in an academic standpoint. But we have to outline by building. So you'll see the elementary building here first and the delivery K4. So you'll see what that school counseling curriculum looks like. Again, very specific to that career and college readiness. And so how are we preparing our kids as early as kindergarten in order to kind of plan and prepare for that post-secondary plan? Then you're going to see the prevention, intervention, and responsive services. So what are those next level type services that our counselors are providing? They might be sitting in on an IEP meeting. They might be pulling small groups of students based on some sort of identified need. They're supporting parent-teacher conferences. They're supporting students in classrooms, a number of different roles here. Then you're going to see an individual student planning. What does that look like for each counselor in each building? It definitely looks different from elementary, middle to high school and how we're supporting individual students and the needs that each of them have in order to prepare for what their plans might be post high school. And then the system support. So how are their day-to-day, what are the day-to-day things that they're doing to kind of support the overall system? So you're going to see that from an academic, career, personal, and social standpoint. And then they outline that the state again requires that we put a number, a percentage on what each of those roles look like within the building. And you'll see that vary a little bit based on each of the three schools. So at the elementary building, you're going to see here that the counselor spends 60% of her time in classrooms doing that whole school-based instruction, presentation and implementing building-wide coordination of different counseling activities. 20% of her time in that like next level where it might be small group or intervening with parent meetings, supporting classroom teachers and behaviors in classrooms. 10% with individual students. And so those kind of case by case scenarios where maybe an individual student has a very specific need that they're working through. And then 10% of just kind of supporting the program as a whole. You're going to see the same thing here for middle school, 5 through 8. Again, just very varied based upon the needs of the kids and the grade level. You're going to see a shift in the counselor role and the percentage within each of those different categories. That 10% being that classroom whole school-based instruction. So at the middle school level, our counselor spends less time kind of in that curricular phase where it's those whole group classroom lessons. And you'll see where it shifts more to that 30% where it's that small group intervention or family supports or teacher collaboration or working with different agencies that are working with our students in that capacity. 10% with individual students, and then about 50% really kind of supporting that whole, again, just kind of the big picture. And that's where you're going to see those student assistance meetings, the mandated reporter trainings, team meetings, kind of that big picture as far as how they're supporting the post-secondary and career planning at the middle school level. High school, you're going to see a lot of file review, credit reviews, course requests and scheduling and college applications and preparation or previews for ACTI and opportunities outside of the classroom from a career standpoint, CHS, again, a number of different things, just kind of the other piece you'll see here at the high school too, that I know that Mr. Nace spends a great deal of time on is supporting students with scholarships and making sure that they are getting the financial aid that they might need if college is that post-secondary plan. You'll see the percentage shift looks a little more like the middle school with that 10% and that whole curricular kind of lens, the 20% and that small group kind of intervention component, the 20% with individual students, and a lot of that involves kind of your SAT preps or planning for work-based internships or apprenticeships or those sorts of things, and then 50% of kind of that whole school lens where, what are the things that we're doing to support students and making sure that we've developed the relationships and the partnerships with families, students, businesses, and the community and colleges in order to prepare our students for whatever that goal is. So then number 7, part of this, the state requires that every student has, I'm going to use the word portfolio, kind of a portfolio where we are required to collect artifacts based on different lessons or activities that the building have planned. Thoughtfully in order to achieve certain goals within the required career curriculum standards. And so what you'll see listed here are different examples of lessons, if they're specific classroom-based lessons or projects. Some of these lessons might already be happening in our classrooms, and they're not necessarily a separate counselor lesson, but we have to collect those artifacts. And so, for example, Mrs. Gelb at the elementary building often goes into kindergarten classrooms. One of the lessons that she does is called Clothesline Clues to Jobs People Do. So it's an introductory lesson of different jobs and roles that members of our community have, and they're just matching. So it sounds super in-depth, but sometimes it's as simple as just developing an awareness of what is out there and what options students have. And again, as you go through each of the buildings, you're going to see that it becomes a little bit more in depth as they are getting older and starting to actually make decisions and even thinking about scheduling and how that scheduling might be supporting whatever those post-secondary plans are. So for example, our sixth graders do a virtual career experience where they're an entrepreneur and are kind of developing and establishing a business and what that looks like, and how they might be able to do that as they get older if that's an interest that they have. They're completing interest inventories that are helping them identify different career clusters that they might be interested in. And then as we get into the high school, you're going to see more of we do the Junior Achievement STEM Summit, which I know Jen has been a part of for a couple of years, where we bring in various careers and kids get to experience and hear about different jobs and things that they might want to explore further as they're planning for their futures. A number of other our high school again is a little bit different, and they actually utilize Canvas, which is our platform for our learning management system. They utilize Canvas to complete the artifacts that are required. We use things like their career fair. If they attend a career fair, that can become part of the portfolio. If they attend the college fair, just evidence or documentation of that can be used as the portfolio. All the way up through 11th grade, where one of the artifacts is resume writing. They do a career research paper, a number of other just different activities that are very either career or college oriented. And then 8, we're just required to list different organizations or networking opportunities that our students have that are connected and help them kind of continue to explore those post-secondary opportunities. So we're always looking for different organizations and things that we can incorporate to these resources that we provide students. We are required to outline the career and technical programming that is available to our students. And so we list our own CTE programs that we have currently here at Bermudian, and then also the opportunities that our students have at ACTI, along with the enrollment numbers. And then finally, the last section is right now geared very much towards next school year, where each building, along with the stakeholder group, identified very specific goals in order to kind of support what it is that we're looking for as far as documentation to show that we are providing achieving goals towards that post-secondary plan. Attendance obviously is so at the elementary level, attendance is one of the ones that they've selected. If kids aren't attending school, it's really hard to ensure that they are prepared, whether it's college or career. So that is just an example of a goal that the building had utilized for next school year in order to continue to monitor and provide different ways to encourage attendance at the elementary building. The 97% of elementary students will transition to middle school with completed career folders. That is part of the requirement already. And then you're going to see 2 goals here at the middle school and 2 goals at the high school. So one of them, again, at the middle school being specific to completing the career portfolio aligned with the requirements. And then the middle school had a strong interest in providing a parent guide. And so one of the plans would be that the counselor would be developing, along with a team of people, kind of a resource guide to help parents, support parents and their conversations that they're having with kids about what those post-secondary plans might be and what resources are available to parents and having those conversations. Finally, at the high school, the high school has been very heavily looking into increasing their CHS course offerings, which would support our students who are going to college. And so they're looking right now to increase the number of offerings by 10%, which requires teachers to submit their course syllabus to Seton Hill for approval. So they're working through all of that right now. And then the high school is also looking to, so we have what we call a SAP team. And essentially what this is it's a partnership with parents and students and families when there is a concern or a need identified by the school team. And we're reaching out to the family to say, we'd like to offer you some supports. They're looking to kind of tighten their SAP team up and be a bit more effective, I think, long term in making sure that 80% of the identified students with or create action plans that 80% of the identified students have clear steps and measurable goals to provide targeted support. So not just saying, here's a kid who needs support, but what are those actionable steps and what does that plan look like in order to make sure that we are actually following through with what that will look like for each of those individual students. And then we are required to incorporate our job descriptions at the end there. So I know that's a lot, 38 pages. Any questions or it's not, it is, here's what I will say. It is new to me. And so it's once we complete our comp plan, we have to, this plan, it kind of falls within that cycle. This is only, it has a 3-year lifespan, and we'll have to have it approved every 3 years, but it was time for the full approval. At this point, this team needs to meet yearly to report out on goals and select goals for the new school year within that 25-28 band before it would come back to the board for reapproval. So it's always been a requirement.
Do they do this for years?
Mhm. It was a lot of fun. I appreciated the work of the stakeholder group. This can be a little dry, but they were a lot of fun to work with and definitely engaged in more conversation and provided more feedback than maybe I anticipated, which I thought was great. And our counselors did a tremendous amount of work on the back end to kind of clean this plan up and make sure that it was as up to date as it should be. And we're looking forward to, it's something we're already implementing. We're looking forward to implementing, but continuing to implement, but now actually monitoring and reporting out on those goals yearly once we get into it next year. Cool.
Well done.
Thanks.
So we'll hear about 339 tomorrow?
Hopefully in a much faster capacity.
But you can see it is a lot of work and all the stakeholders that have been involved with Dr. Myers, I want to send my thanks to them. This is no easy task for sure, and we are held accountable for it. So I do appreciate the importance that you put on that. So thank you so much. All right, moving on to Justin and the more budget presentation. More.
I'm going to give Justin access.
Okay. There we go. All right. So, here's my monthly update with some better information as we go. And like I shared before, the closer we get to June, that's always the goal, that I get more solidified information, so that makes the numbers more accurate. Because like I share with you, I'm giving you the information that I have at this point. And as things become more and more clear, that obviously provides you guys a better platform to make a better informed decision when it comes to June with the final budget. So with that, things that have been updated on the estimate side since February. And that first one, it's always a moving target. This is our Schedule A. So these are all the services that the IU provides to us. So currently from February to March, with the latest update we received for them, we actually had a reduction in our services of $44,709. So that's a good thing. That's a positive. That means we're not spending as much money to the IU for our services. But as easy as that can happen, in April, we can get one that says it's increased by 150,000. So this one fluctuates back and forth, but for now, this is great news. The other piece that the state provides us at this point between February and March here is our revenue estimate for our transportation subsidy. That has increased by $82,085. So with a reduction in IU expenses and an increase in revenue, they're both gains in a positive way. So the total revision is to the positive of 126,784. And again, that's on the estimate sides for the current budget we're in right now. Okay. Budget changes. So I know we spoke a little bit about the governor's proposed budget last month, and what has become more solidified in a very positive way for us is for the right to know grant, block grant. So this is where the adequacy funding and the tax equity came into play. We've not received and we will not receive any tax equity funding. It's the adequacy funding. This is the piece that is related to the court, the case that is being suggested that the state needs to fund public education properly. That's what this all came out of. So this is the amount that was increased in our current year budget. What we have found out is that amount will be solidified for this year's budget that we're working on now. So that is a good thing that they're not taking that money away from us. So anything in addition is what's up for discussion and negotiations with the governor and the House and Senate up in Harrisburg. But the positive for us is we know that we're going to get the piece that we received last year minimally. So that what I had in was what was prior to any adequacy funding being in at all. Okay. So we know we're getting what we got, what we received in adequacy for this year. That's come out that is a guarantee that they're not taking that away from us. So that's another good sign that we're getting for the budget we're working on for 25-26. It's an additional $362,705 in state revenue through that adequacy funding through the Ready to Learn block grant. Okay. So as I promised, and I will continue every month, this slide I think is very beneficial for you guys to see, just to highlight what the different options and the effect that each option has. So the Act 1 index, which is 5.4%, is the green column. You can see that. I'm not going to read that to you. But then down 3.6 is the red, 1.8 is the yellow, and 0 is the blue. Okay. And that's what's been here since January, and that's what will continue to be there through June. These amounts will never change. Okay, so this is with the revision for the Ready to Learn block grant. As you can see on the bottom section there, that shows the $362,621. So factoring that into our February amounts, which were in the top red
line, if you would see. So at the 5.4% increase, that right column, our deficit was 1,840,968. With this adjustment for the budget for the Ready to Learn block grant, the increase of 362,621. Now our deficit at 5.4 is 1,478,347. And then you can just follow that same line to the left for your different options on your tax increase. So 3.6, you're at a 1.7 deficit, 1.8, you're at a 2 million deficit, and a 0% tax increase, you're at a 2.2% or $2.2 million deficit. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay. So now this incorporates both the change in our estimate that I explained earlier, as well as our reduced amount of fund balance needed to balance the 25-26. So that top number is the audited fund balance amount as July 1, 2024, the 6.5 million. Now the estimated fund balance usage for the current budget we're in right now, the current year, 24-25, is $20,111. So that is obviously very good news. At this point, always obviously subject to change throughout until June, which would mean that currently the estimated fund balance at the end of June of 2025 would be the 6.523567, and then you subtract out what is the deficit currently for the 25-26 budget. That brings you to an ending estimated fund balance for 25-26 of just over $5 million. Okay. This is just a breakdown of our specific fund balance as it stands right now. We have $6,543,678. By law, we're only allowed to have 8% in the unreserved, undesignated amount. So that amount, it's 8% of our total expenditures. That amount is the $2,835,566. We have restricted amounts within there. The Mary Wolf estate, that is dedicated to the FFA. And that amount now is $60,472. Our iPad repairs, our account is $10,928 or $920. And then our committed amounts, this is for healthcare. We have $1,506,687 and retirement of $2,130,034. Adding those all up gets you back to the total amount of the $6,543,678. Okay, so I have what I'm showing you here is our current up-to-date deficits based on a 3-year projection. And I also have on the next slide what it was in February. And we'll go back and forth so you can see the progress that we've made in 1 month. When you have benefits both ways, so positive direction both ways of estimates and on the budget, it makes a significant effect on our projections. So as you can see now, that $5 million figure for the beginning of the year fund balance in 26-27, that was from the previous slide. That's our new fund balance based on where we are currently. So that would mean we'd have $2.4 million remaining at the end of 26-27. The deficit in 27-28, let me back up. The deficits in all 3 projection years have come down because our revenue has gone up currently. So all 3 years are looking better. Obviously, we still have work to do in 27-28. And like I've always shared, and I will continue, once you go out 3 years, you're stretching it to some really, I don't want to say fictitious numbers, but they're not very solid because a lot of things can change at the state level that will affect that 3rd year very heavily. So Obviously, I'm not saying I'm not concerned about 28, 29, but my focus is on those first 2 years. And we are making progress, and I, I feel very good that our number right now is at 1.5 deficit in 27, 28. Because I believe we will definitely be able to manage that into something that we historically have been able to do that, and I see no reason why we can't do it moving forward. So the exact same slide that I'm going to show next was last month at this time. So as you can see, so just let's take a look at the budget shortfall for all 3 years. It was just shy of 3 million, 4.3, and 5.8. So if I go back, now we're at 2.6, 3.9, and 5.4. So, I mean, that's some substantial changes in a very positive way, which is the direction we want to go. If you look at the last line, so the end of year balance, in February, we're at 1.5, negative 2.7, negative 8.5. If we go back now, where we are now, we're at 2.4, negative 1.5, and negative 6.9. There are substantial changes in a very positive direction. Okay. So historically, I've shown this to the board. And I think it's just good information for you to have as we process through the budget. I mean, when we go from January through June. And keep in mind that we're really building our budget starting a year and a half in advance of when it actually goes into play. Okay. And you know, some of these numbers are reflective of that. And a lot of it has to do too with we are required to pass our budget prior to knowing what state is allowing us or going to provide us in that year. And there's, I mean, I don't see that changing with legislation because it's law. Even though it's law for them, they create the law so they can ignore the law, I guess you can say. We can't. So I don't even know the last time, well, I don't know the last time a budget from the state level has been passed on time so that we could even implement it into our budget. But I'm not holding my breath and I'm not crossing my fingers anytime soon. But this shows you, this gives you a 10-year look. So from 2014-15 through last year, what our budget deficits were when we passed the budget and what we, after the audit, what the actual deficit and or surplus was. So, you know, this is a result of a lot of good financial planning from the board's perspective, as well as working with our building administration and everyone, all of our staff, utilizing what is needed, not necessarily what they want, but you know that this is the goal all the time, so that we can expand our resources that we have, because we know we don't have unlimited ones. So the further we can expand our resources out, the better for everyone. So as you can see, our budget would show over 10 years, we had a deficit of 13.1 million. But when the actual audit comes through and our final numbers are done, we're to the surplus of 1.7. So over a 10-year period, we were able to gain just roughly shy of $15 million. Okay. Now you could think to yourself, well, this isn't really accurate. All I can say is it takes 1 year for us to flip the other way and we'd be on the other end of it, not looking too good. I never want to be where I'm budgeting that we're going to have a surplus, which we would never do. But if we have a surplus and it comes out that we're 2.3 million deficit. So, you know, my recommendation is to continue with what we've done because it's worked well. It's provided us flexibility. It's provided us with, like I said, stretching our limited resources a long way. So that's the purpose of looking at this. So this is just to, it's a little dated, but it still holds a lot of value. So as you can see here, this is through a 10-year period as well. So 11 through 2021. This is basically showing the amount of mandated costs we have from the state compared to the revenue that we're getting from the state for these mandated costs that we have to pay. So specifically looking at pension costs, charter tuition, special education costs, and then also looking at the corresponding revenue that we've received over those 10-year period. As you can see, the shift, so where's that fall to? The local taxpayers have to pay for these mandates that the state has enforced. And in that 10-year period, it was over $3 million. Okay. These are, again, things we have zero control over. Okay. So that's just highlighting that, that we have very little say, if any, in these things. So again, these trends, even if I took it up till now, there's no major change. If anything, that number is going to get bigger. It's not going to get smaller. Okay. This is just illustrating the PSERS rate and the future estimates. So as you can see, from 79.80 the whole way through what is 29.30, just the major fluctuations in the PSERS rate. And this is what we pay. We are mandated to pay for retirement for every one of our staff members. Okay. So for every penny, I'm sorry, not every penny, every dollar that we spend. So this year's certified rate is 34%. So for every dollar of salary, we have to pay 34 cents for every staff member's salary. Okay. No questions asked. Now, we do get reimbursed 50% of PSERS. Okay. They have not changed that. So that is a positive from the state's perspective. But the projections throughout the next 10 years are showing a steady incline. Okay, nothing coming down. And as you can see, back in 2001, 2002, we were down to 1.09%. So here's another interesting one. And I think it's more and more. All right. So this is looking at the fund balance for all three of those type of LEAs. So charter schools, CTCs, and then public school districts. Okay, and you can see the corresponding years there. I mean, I think it's very, and what you look at is you look on the right-hand side, you're looking at the percent. Okay. So this is what we've been saying as public education that is, I mean, you can't really argue. Look in 22, 23, the percentage amount of the fund balance for charter schools compared to school districts. 17.4% of their overall compared to their amount of total expenditures is fund balance, while public school districts are 8.7, because majority of schools, now this is your entire, this would be your unreserved, undesignated, this is all your committed, all your restricted, it's your total fund balance amount. Okay, that's what this number is. But this is just going to show that the same rules do not apply as they do to public schools. And this, I mean, there's no better way of showing it than this. It's black and white right there. So again, just information for you as we work through, and maybe any discussions you want to have with lawmakers or anything. This is pretty clear. Okay, now transitioning a little bit here. So I have had some building budget meetings with some board members. And I just want to go over and highlight to make the full board aware of what was discussed and how if there's any direction that that you want to provide. But for the 3 building budgets, our elementary, I'm not going to read the numbers there, you can see them. But the overall budget amount for those 3 buildings is $570,931. So of that, that's 1.48% of our overall general fund budget. Okay. So that's just factual information from the general fund budget. So some of the highlights that I just wanted to see if anyone had any feelings or wanted to generate any discussion. PBIS funding. The concept of PBIS is not something that was entertained as wanting to change because the feeling was it's very effective in the elementary and middle school. The bottom line is it just came up as a question of how it's currently funded. So in the general fund right now, you can see roughly between the elementary and middle school, there's $14,400. Okay. So, and this traditionally, since PBIS has been installed at Bermudian, this is traditionally what the amounts have been. Okay. And then the other piece before I would open it up for any discussion that from the full board would be office furniture replacement. So currently, in the building budgets, there's $10,000 for office furniture replacement. And these are not something that are like a standard line item. These are a need that the buildings felt that they had. But at this point, so all these items are in the current budget. So I just wanted to get anyone's thoughts on this as we work through, and if the direction of the full board is to make any kind of adjustments for these items. I mean, obviously we will take that direction, but I just wanted to see your thoughts on this.
So these numbers are in line with what we've had in previous years?
Correct. Yes.
And it's currently in the budget, so wouldn't be an increase.
It is currently in what the numbers that you've seen in the budget. Yes, it's currently.
Is there a way that we can still offer the PBIS just maybe at a lower cost with being a little more creative or something without sacrificing any of the good that it does? Both for the elementary and middle, is there a way that we can kind of lower those numbers a little bit?
I would have to check with them directly. The thought of how they disperse and what they use it on, pretty much the amount that is approved in the budget, they have discretion on how they want to utilize that money. So basically, when you approve the budget, the $8,400, the elementary school would have discretion on how they would spend that. Okay. Same with the middle school. You approve the $6,000. The building administration in the middle school would have the discretion on how they would spend the $6,000. You know, I can definitely take any direction back. I can't sit here and tell you with definite certainty that that wouldn't cause a problem to the program, PBIS program, if any money was trimmed off of that. So I can't tell you tonight, sitting here specifically, but you know, any direction that you would give me, I would definitely communicate back and could get back to you on that. I mean, and like I said, we obviously have April and May. I mean, obviously I would want it adjust, if it's going to be adjusted, I'd want it taken care of by the May preliminary budget, but we definitely have time if that's what the board wants to do.
The 8,400, was that just for the store tickets, or did that also include the 4,000 for the school store?
No, that included, that's inclusive of everything. So the SOAR tickets are a part of that. And so that's everything PBIS related in the elementary school.
Gotcha.
And I can speak a little bit more towards that. So I did speak with the principals both at the elementary and middle school just to get some information from them. Excuse me, I do want to also recognize the fact that our PBIS programs are state recognized. So you have to go through so many steps in order for the state to recognize the work that you're doing in PBIS. So I say that first to know that it is successful, or we wouldn't get that. We do have regional leads come into our buildings to monitor our PBIS programs to see how they're doing, and that's how you get the recognition. In talking with them, what they're using the money for is a couple of things. They're using it for assemblies to support the initiative. They're also using it for incentives, incentives that students want to work towards, as far as it could be community building, it could be things is, you know, tactile things, but really it's to provide experiences for them to motivate, which is doing it right. Talking with the principals, I do know that that is the set amount of the budget, but neither of them try to go up to that amount. They're like, I think with what I've seen them spending it on, are pretty mindful of the amount that they have, and they do try to be the most fiscally responsible with that amount, but without going up to it or going over it or desiring to go over it. So there are a bunch of things that are involved. Again, I don't know if you've seen what assemblies cost lately. One assembly can be thousands of dollars just for a assembly. And that could be anything, what that could look like. So the money, I feel like they really do look at it. They did give me things that they've spent it on in the past, and they're very grateful and thankful for that. I do also know that, especially at the elementary level, because we have a very active PTO in this school district, which is very impressive. But they do try to offset some of that and provide opportunities for the students that would be able to support PBIS. Middle school, they try to get the PTO off the ground, but it's a tough age group to get PTOs going. They are very focused on volunteering and providing things, but not as much as the fundraising that you would see at an elementary level. So we were just at the actual elementary PTO meeting, and their goal is to try to offset anything that we are trying to do with our students. And PBIS actually did come up and looking at incentivizing things and them helping. So I do think that the principals are being creative with the funds that they have, without going up to that amount or overspending that. But you know, whatever the direction of the board is, or any more information that you would need, I'd be happy to provide that for you.
Well, the office furniture replacement. Who's actually replacing it? Both schools?
No, there's two separate things. So, I mean, we'll get to that. I mean,
To the office furniture, because the middle school
No.
shouldn't need any.
no, they're two separate. So now that we're like, before we go to the office furniture, do we have any more direction or discussion that we want to have on the PBIS funding?
Is there ever a balance left over from those?
Yeah.
Where does that balance go?
Any balance that's in the general fund goes into the fund balance.
Has there ever been any consideration to put that specifically back into that for the next year
So,
as opposed to general funding?
so the way that it works, basically you can't move money forward to the next year. Once the fiscal year is over, you're starting brand new. So whether you lower the budget amount, that's an option, but you can't carry money from one year to the next.
In that line item.
Correct.
We just wanna- What's the guidance for, I think Justin was asking for what's his. What's he want him to do? Do you want him to go back and see if there's ways to bring the number down, or do you want to leave it alone and have it go back to the general fund? I think that's what he's asking. What does everybody think?
I wouldn't change the numbers because if these programs are providing positive reinforcement for students, it's such a minuscule number. You know, if we can add a few $100s to the fund balance, nobody's going to be upset about that.
I think if it goes back to the fund balance, which I didn't know went back to the fund balance, I think that's reasonable. If you're giving money and it's not being used, it goes back to the fund balance. Then no harm, no foul.
Agreed.
I just wanted to reiterate then too, the slide you had like a couple slides ago that showed like you budgeted like 13 million and we ended up 14 million in the positive. That was your attempt to show kind of what you guys were just saying. That is all the money that went back to the fund balance.
That is correct.
So I was just showing it wasn't just this line item, it's all of the line items. So I just meant we are already doing that where Justin and our administration and our staff budgeted for $13 million. And over the course of 10 years, we saved $14 million. So it's not just the fact that they save a couple $1,000s on the PBIS. They're saving a couple here and they're saving some other places and all these other places that added up over the course of 10 years. So that was $14 million that went back to our fund balance, maybe is a simple way to say it.
Correct.
So I just meant we get a little bit here and a little bit else, and that's from the dedication of our staff and our administration staying well within their budget to the tune of $14 million. I just wanted to restate that. Yep, somebody.
Okay, so we'll move on. So yeah, the office furniture is not, it's not for the middle school. It's for the high school is where the office furniture is for. That's where it's line item budget. They're looking specifically at the conference room, the table and chairs, and maybe a chair or two in each one of the offices of the principal and assistant. I know you may think that doesn't sound like a lot, but office furniture is very expensive. And it is not that we have not bought new office furniture for the high school. I don't recall the last time that we've spent money out of the general fund for any replacement of furniture in the high school office.
And if I can jump in there, I talked to Mr. Brooks as well. So if you, again, it is shocking how much furniture is for schools. But even if you're buying furniture out there right now, it's crazy expensive. But what I will say is you have to put in perspective, the last renovation in the high school was 20 years ago. That furniture, the conference room table in there, I've been in that room often. It is literally falling apart, and that's where they're meeting with parents all the time. And that's their conference room. I will be honest, the chairs look like somebody gnawed on them. They just, I know, like, I don't know how else to describe. They have run its course. It's more than screws, you know, to like tighten.
Oh, I'm not.
It's what I'll say about this with the new guy here, it is amazing how things get repurposed here. Like seriously, there's a room, and before you ask for anything, you go to the room and you see what you can dig out and put into place. Yes. So that definitely has happened, because even with, you know, the boardroom, immediately people, I'll fix that. Like I'll get new screws, I'll tighten things up and I'll use it. And so it does get repurposed. I think, you know, the conference room at the high school is definitely in need. And the administration there, they said, well, if we can't have it, we'll fix it the best way we can, but I think it's served its time. For sure.
It's been that long since I replaced it, I think, from what you guys are saying, it sounds like it's.
Yeah.
It's been
But it has,
think
I mean,
it's
it's,
An ace bandage or something for turn on the heart of the one chair.
There-
It's bad.
it's,
Yes. Okay. We're good? All right. So I want to follow up here, just ending up, I know there's a couple slides here, but this is just showing historical view of what savings the areas that we've done savings in. And board members that have been here for a couple years have seen this. I've just updated them. So looking at it, we're looking at healthcare. I mean, the majority of our changes have come in healthcare, personnel, and then some special ed. The bond refinancing has really been one big one that we did in the last since 2014. But as I go through here, I just want to get to the bottom. So what this shows you from 2014, 2015 through the current budget year we're in, okay, not including anything that we are working on now. So in those areas, we've saved over $6.3 million, okay? The bond refinancing was the biggest piece, one-time piece, which is normal. Anytime that we can refinance a bond, we're going to do it. But remember, when we took out the bonds, we took them out at such a low interest rate, which was the attraction to do what we did. So we might not get that savings on that part, but we got the savings and we're continuing to get the savings long-term, just as a low interest rate to begin with. So as you can see, our healthcare reductions from 2014 till now total that 1,948,000. Personnel changes. I mean, this could be through attrition. This could be just normal retirements. And when all that combined from 2014 through the current budget year we're in right now, total 1.8. So as you can see, all that together, we're at 6.3 million. And then this is just on healthcare alone. But I think it's important to emphasize what success we've had with the help of Jason Garoli, who is our benefit consultant, in working with our provider and extending out our rate caps and the amount of money that we can save as a result of that, which is very crucial. Because if we do not have those rate caps in place, we have increases in healthcare that we don't even want to talk about. So we're very good when it comes to that. So, I mean, just look there and I mean, it seems a little crazy, but 2014, our calculated increase without any cap was 72.67%. We had a negotiated cap in place, which was 11.5. We made, and it was able to come down to 11.3. So just in that 1 year, we saved well over $1.5 million based on what we should have gotten based on the claims the prior year and what our negotiated rate cap was. So that's what the point of this is, just to highlight that cost savings are always ongoing. We're looking at it. We're trying our best to do what we can. Just look there at 24. This year we're in, so that would have been our renewal as of July 1 of 2025. So what we're in right now, the calculated rate was 30%. We should have received a 30% increase based off of our claims the prior year. We had a 15% rate cap in. Our deductibles increased because they had to stay within the IRS limits. As a result, our increase was 14% when it should have been 30%. But that's the work that Jason helps us with, and we monitor it, and we meet monthly to go over that and just stay on top of it. So again, I think it's just all good information as we're working through the budget and understanding the things that we're doing on the back end to save money throughout the entire year to get to you the information so that you can make good decisions and feel good when it comes to June. So with that, I will open it up for any questions or discussions at this point. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Justin. I appreciate that. And always giving us more information. And thanks for all the work that you're putting into pulling those presentations together. Again, if I urge you, if there's something about the budget, like even after these things and you process it and you're not sure, please reach out to me and we can set up a time for you to talk with Justin, one-on-one or because I know it's a lot to process and we want to make sure that you have a clear understanding because you have a big decision to make in voting for the budget. So if there's anything you're not sure about, please definitely reach out to me. Something for Justin to talk through piece of the budget with you. Okay. Moving forward, I'm happy to say that we had our board policy subcommittee meeting this week, and we got a lot accomplished during that. And I just wanted to talk to you about the approval process, just to make sure that the board has understanding. Again, a school board has the option to do a committee full structure where every committee is the whole board, or you can do sub where members board at each subcommittee, and then that committee would then work together and make a recommendation to the board. The school board chose to go with the subcommittee structure. So what we did with our policy is create a subcommittee. The process there is putting into place a policy review cycle, which is very similar to a curriculum cycle. You go through the process where you look at in the policies through that cycle so that you can make sure that you continue to update the policies and they don't become outdated. Districts across the state have found themselves where they are working with policies that are outdated, and we were no different. We have some that might be 5 years all the way up to 20 years that haven't been revised. The good news is we have a plan in place and we're working towards it. And I'm excited about that. And I wanted to talk to you about what that looks like. So the subcommittee is going to meet and I will bring policy to the subcommittee to review. On the side of the board, there is the subcommittee. On the side of the school district, I am pulling together a subcommittee of administrators so that when we look at policies, we're getting input from the administrators that are working in it every day. We're getting feedback from PSBA to make sure that we're aligned to the law and school code, and then also getting feedback from the school board. So you're getting 3 stakeholder groups there. Once we put make recommendations that the board is confident with, then we will also get one final review or through the process with stock and leader if there's anything that we need advice on or just to kind of have reviewed. So what the committee will do is they'll take all those ideas from those stakeholder groups and they will make a recommendation that they will put towards the board. And that recommendation would be any changes to the policy. Some policies you're going to see are going to be brand new that didn't exist before. You'll have some policy that the recommendation is to revise them. And then there are going to be policies that are retired, meaning either the policy doesn't hold place anymore in school code or in a school district, or that policy was absorbed by another one. So the meaning isn't lost. It's just now part of a bigger policy. What you're going to have in front of you is I will be bringing a set of policies that the subcommittee is recommending for your approval. So tonight will be the first read is what that would be considered. So if you are looking at 11 policies that are coming to you tonight, you have all of those policies. Those policies are public facing. And what that does is your first read will last 30 days. Or a month from this board meeting to the board meeting in April. When we come back in April for caucus, we'll have that opportunity for discussion for the policies. If there's any public comment, if there's any discussions from the board to digest those. And then the goal would be to understand all those concerns, address those concerns. And then in the board meeting, the voting session in April, we would vote on the policies. That would be updated in our policy manuals, would be updated on our website. And then as the subcommittee meets again, I will bring another cluster of policies to that. So this will just be an ongoing process that will help us get through it. Slow is steady or slow is fast sometimes. We do need to go through these and make sure that we do it right and that we answer any questions that the public might have or any questions that the board might have so that we're confident when we put these policies into place that we can, one, follow them and we understand them. Okay. Any questions about that process? I'm excited about it. I know it's great to get excited. So then what you'll see in front of you tonight, or what is going to be in front of you tomorrow as well, is you are going to have 11 policies that were up to be revised. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to access those policies that I shared with you. Anything that is in bold is a change. And most of the policies that you'll see with the subcommittee that we look through is it's actually being more specific. So a lot of policies from 20 years ago were very general. They weren't specific. So what you'll see in that bold is you might have things, you'll see more definition so that there's a better understanding, or you will see more clarity in some of the policy definition. You're also going to see 2 new policies that were put into place. That would be policy 304 and 306. Those policies didn't exist. But what I can say is a policy like 304 absorbed policy 303. So that put those together. So we'll see that, and I'll walk you all through those as those changes occur. And then the last cluster you will see is you're going to see any retired policies. And in this cluster in the 300s, the 2 policies that are retired are going to be 310, abolishing a position, because it's still important, but it became part of policy 311 over time. And the other retired policy would be 316, non-tenured employees, because it is now deemed irrelevant because a non-tenured employee is covered under many other policies. It's not a standalone anymore. So you'll get those 3 categories: a policy revision, a new policy, if there is any in that section, and any retired policies. And then when we come back in April at the voting session, you'll be voting on it. You'll be voting on the revisions, you'll be voting on the new policy, and you'll be voting on the retired policies. Sure.
Administration.
Mhm.
They're gonna be a stakeholder group. Are they going to be suggesting policies, changes, or are they going to be like, what? I know you said this, but I'm trying to get a better grasp
Yep.
on it, because board policies are the jurisdiction of the board. Now I understand that everybody else, they have to work under them and everything else like that. So the administration's role in working with
Mhm.
you through the policy committee, will they be making suggestions or will they actually be writing? Okay.
No, just to be clear, administrators are not policy writers. So what I would be bringing back to you would be recommendations.
Sure.
So what they'll do is we'll go through, just like we do with the subcommittee, Shannon and I will be with our stakeholder group. We'll run through the policies that we're going to bring to the subcommittee. We'll look at the suggestions and changes from PSBA and the law. And then we will see if there's any other recommendations that might be specific to Bermudian Springs. And then when I come to the subcommittee, I will bring those. So you'll have any recommendations from admin and any recommendations from PSBA. But they are the leadership team, they are just that, they are recommendations. And there might not be any on some policies. It just all depends on what policy we're looking at.
Dr. Sterner, it's not a major thing on the policy committee. You had set 317.1 for the weapons listed, but then it's not on the board one. I don't remember how that was resolved. Was that added or not?
Wasn't I thought 317.1 was approved already. Is though, I think that one was approved already. Give me 1 sec, I can tell you. Because that was before me.
Yeah, the current one on the website, 317.1 says educator misconduct. So maybe we changed it. I was just asking.
Yeah,
because
so the weapons is another policy. 317 is now the conduct and disciplinary
So we
procedures.
had already retired that.
Correct, yeah, yeah. I knew that one was done before. But thank you for that.
Yeah, I just wondered that they didn't, that was the only thing I didn't mention.
Yeah, it was under 317.1 now is educator misconduct.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions about that? So the goal of the board is to digest. That's the whole point of the 30 days, is having that opportunity to read through policy. So that when we come back together at caucus in April, if you have any specific questions or you need clarity, that's what that opportunity is for. So that we are ready and feel confident that in the board meeting that we would be able to vote on them and have that second read. Right. All right. And I did want to thank the committee, Dan and Mary, it was a great conversation. Matt was there, Jen was there as well. I do appreciate you guys showing up. It is a new process and we're working through it, but I do think that we are moving forward and I'm excited to see how much we can get accomplished in getting our policies updated. Okay. At this point, there was a typo there. I do apologize. The wrong one was, the wrong agenda was put in here, curriculum update. This would be a time where we talk about any board committees. I just spoke about the policy subcommittee. Mary, was there anything else you wanted to add to that? Any updates that I might have missed? Sure. I think that covers his BNG we didn't meet. And that would bring us to update on 8.
The opportunity to serve as Bermudian Springs representative to the ACTI Joint Operating Committee. And we met 2 weeks ago. We awarded a lot of Student of the Quarter awards to well-deserved students from across the county. That was kind of the main highlight of our meeting. I do want to announce with regret that the person who was to be taking over the director role at ACTI has resigned. So that leaves Sean Eckenrode still at the helm, and he is slated to retire later this year. So the JOC is working to find the best direction forward with the personnel that they have and someone new to lead the organization. And we hope to have a review of land purchasing options, hopefully in the next 2 to 3 months for individual board review and moving ahead with a land purchase. That's all I have to report. Thank you.
All right, Brian, thank you so much for stepping up. If there's a time that's most important is now to have our school district represented on the JOC. A lot of things are about to happen, in a good way, but a lot of decisions need to be made. As you shared that they are back to the drawing board as far as seeking a director for ACTI. But I do know that the JOC is very strong and want to do what's best for the school and provide opportunities for our students. So I'm very confident that you're there and representing us. So I do appreciate that extra time. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we look forward to hearing more about ACTI.
I look forward to presenting good news in the months to come.
All right, excellent. Okay. At this time, is there any public comment? Okay. All right. Thank you all so much. And just a reminder, we're just going to take a quick break here and then we're going to go into executive session. So if you need a quick break, now's the time to take it and then we'll get back together.
So the